Good morning and happy Wednesday. Well, I guess it could be afternoon by some of you guys, but we are going to give a few more minutes as we get started here for attendees to hop on. So we will be back with you shortly. So welcome for today. This is the Workforce Hub University webinar series. Again, thank you guys for joining us. We're still going to wait a few more minutes for people to hop on. Still see people adding in. While we're waiting, why don't we kind of do a quick chat, make sure all of our technology is working, and why don't you guys tell me if there's anything about the summer coming up that you guys are excited about, any summer vacations or anything fun that you guys plan on doing as we are starting to near summer. Again, you guys can throw that in the chat, just like you can ask questions at any point throughout this webinar. Today we'll be covering reports. Okay, we are past the hour, so we will get started. Thank you again for joining us today. This is the Workforce Hub webinar series, and we are happy that you are here. Just a little bit about who will be working with you today. So my name is Holly Helt. I'm the Director of Customer Success here at Swipe Clock. And also with me today is Travis Richens. He is our Product Marketing Director. So we're going to be working through the reports. Again, we're going to be focusing on the Workforce Hub Plus product. But just to let you know, because there's obviously a lot of different people on here of varying product levels for the Workforce Hub series. We'll kind of tell you or walk you through what the product you might be on. So we do have a couple different variations. Again, this webinar series really focuses on the Plus product because it has all of the components available, whereas Essentials and Advanced kind of have pared down versions. Your Essentials really focuses on just basic timekeeping components. Advanced has both scheduling, a little bit more robust timekeeping, some geofencing included, and then the Plus product is that full Workforce Hub product, kind of covering applicant tracking, employee management, workflows, and all the wonderful things that you'll see today. All right, let's hop in on the agenda. So again, today we're going to be covering the reporting aspects of this product. We're going to cover a few specific reports that maybe you are utilizing, or maybe some things to kind of help you with your day-to-day items. We're going to be covering overtime because that's usually a hot button item for people, how our system and how your setup can associate to labor allocations as far as reporting go. We'll touch a little bit on reporting as far as payroll, and then kind of working through some employee items, like how we're capturing some items that we're collecting from them, how do we report on those, and just some general kind of HR buckets. Lastly, like always, we'll finish up with some questions and answers, and we can get started. So again, if you guys got questions as we go, please feel free to use the chat. We want to make this as beneficial and as interactive for you as we can. All right, Travis, why don't you take it away?
All right, sounds good. Go ahead and grab this. All right. All right, let's jump over here. Okay, so like Holly said, we're going to walk through some of the reporting. We'll first start out, and like she mentioned, we're in WorkforceHub Plus. So if your screen looks different on your end, if you're on Essentials or Advanced, kind of talk about what reports are available in each of those packages. So if we show off something today that you don't have, Holly's the person to reach out to. She can help you with that. If you need to upgrade the account for that specific report, that is always possible. So, all right, we'll go ahead and jump in then. We'll go straight to the time tab up top. And then we have this, the pop out with reports. I'm guessing that I'm gonna have to, yeah, here we go. Let me do a trick here. Perfect. Let's see if this works now. All right, so we got the reports in here. So for those that have opened this tab up, this can be daunting. What do all these do? If you've never heard of, say, a labor code report or a summary report, what does that actually mean? We do our best to kind of explain what the reports mean in that black smaller text. But as Holly mentioned, we'll first start out with overtime and what we see in our product being the most beneficial for you in reports to kind of show what the overtime is on a daily basis, get an overview of how much overtime you have for the pay period, things like that. So I first want to start out with the daily auto email report. This is an awesome report that basically it allows you to subscribe to time card activity that's happened the day before. So what I mean by that is we come in here, you can select a login, who you want that email to go to. This is all your managers, your admins. You put in their email address, and you can also filter by groups. If you're in the Plus package and you have groups set up, you can filter by those group sections that you have created. And then you can set a time that email will be sent to you. And what this means is, let's say that we get this email this morning at 7 a.m. That email is going to give you a recap of all the work done in the previous day. So I think we may have some data in here from yesterday. Yeah, so this is more or less the email that you're going to get every morning at 7 a.m. or whatever time you set there. 7 a.m. is the default. And then just shows you an overview of what your employees worked yesterday. So up top, it gives you a high level view of the pay period so far, how many hours were worked, how many overtime hours. So that lets you know right away if there's anybody on overtime. And then it shows you if there's any missing punches, right? If somebody clocked in, but they forgot to clock out, this icon for the scheduler just shows there's a scheduled deviation. Maybe they weren't supposed to be, maybe they weren't scheduled for that day, or maybe they showed up late, something like that. And then it shows you the typical in and out time and then the hours and amount worked. So really just a great report. It allows you, to just check it on your phone through email. You wouldn't need to jump into the platform to review that. And then down below where we talk about that overtime is who has the most overtime. Who are you worried about? Is there a specific employee that is constantly having overtime? This helps you to look at this to see if there's any daily overtime, if there's overtime in the pay period, and what those numbers are. So once again, this is called the daily auto email report, and setting it up is pretty simple. Come in, add that login, make sure that email is set up in place, and hit save. And then every day, the following day, you're going to get that email at the time that you set. All right, to keep going on with the theme of overtime, another great report if you're looking specifically to see how many overtime hours your employees have worked in the pay period. The summary report does a great job at this. We can come in and we can click on a previous pay period or the current pay period. You can put in those custom pay ranges. And then you have the ability to kind of customize your report however you would feel needed. So you can show wages if that matters, row numbers, if there's edits, time cards. I'm going to go ahead and leave it as is. I'm going to keep it as active employees. You can also add additional fields. So if you're using a clock prompt to say track a job or a location, you want to see how many hours have been worked at a specific location or job, you can check those boxes for the clock prompts. You can also filter. If you want to filter out for a specific location or a project, you could do that as well. I'm going to leave it as a default, and I'm going to hit submit. You can see here that it pulls up a report. It shows you line by line those employees that have time. So you can see that shows that we got Carrie up here. We have regular time. She has some overtime, and then if there was any bonus hours provided as well. These are those categories. Let's say that somebody has a vacation, or they're out sick, or you have another punch category or a punch type that you've created on your end. It would parse this out line by line for you, and then give you a great overview down below that shows you how many overtime hours have been worked so far in that pay period. And then you can also export this to CSV. So if you need to do that, you can also print it off if that's your thing. Exporting is probably the most common one that we see people utilize there. All right, so we've talked about the daily auto email. The last item that we want to talk about in here is more or less, and I'll kind of jump over to this now. I'm going to jump around outside of reports. So we have, all these reports here. There's one report called the payroll export. And you can do that through the payroll review, right? If we go through this whole process, and if you've done this, you can kind of see as we go through. I'm just going to quickly get to the end here, where you can export, that summary report, or you can do all details. This is probably the one that the people are most common with, just because we see a lot of people use that payroll review portion and then use the summary report, which we just went over, or the detail report there as well. We also have file formats, which I'll get to here at the end, which we'll find in the admin tab. All right, kind of covers what I wanted to get to with overtime. Like I said, the daily auto email report, just as a reminder, and the summary report, probably the best reports in here for you if you're looking for reports that show you specifically overtime values. All right, next is the labor allocation reports. So what this means, let's say that you are tracking, I'll go on the theme of jobs and maybe projects, locations. Maybe you have a company where you need to go to several locations during a day. We have a lot of home health companies as well that work with us, and they want to track where those employees are at. And so some of those reports also, you can see that especially in the summary report, you could just see really the time that was attached to that. In the labor allocation reports, we have a labor report, and we can track hours by labor segments. And so what this means is we can come in here, we can say, all right, all active employees, and we hit continue here. We then have the ability to add more to this. I want to see hours, and I want to say, let's see the location of where those hours are being worked. And so I'm going to go ahead and run that report. And this, rather than showing you the employees, like a specific line item for employee, how many hours they've worked, including their overtime, things like that, this is just showing you how many hours have been worked per, say, location or a job, however you need to set it up. And this breaks those down as you see it here. This can also be exported to CSV as well. So we have the labor report. It's a great one to do that. The other item that we already talked about really was that daily auto email. That daily auto email comes in and is able to show you, where those employees are working, how many hours they've worked there. So that daily auto email is used in a lot of these instances.
Hey, Travis, before you click off that.
Oh, I'll go back. Yeah.
All good. I just kind of want to mention kind of how those things come into play. So some of you might not be familiar with clock prompts. Again, that's how we're allocating that time in the beginning of the clock in process. So there's a way that we can set up those prompts to collect that information. So if you want time to be associated to a job or a location, department, project, all those examples that Travis was listing out. We're going to do that when that employee is clocking in first and foremost. We're going to ask them a question. What are you allocating this time to? And that does flow over to visually on the time card. And then that's how we're getting this reporting out of here. So if you guys need assistance in setting up that prompt to kind of start this process of allocating labor to certain things, let me know and we will gladly get you either information or I can sit down with you guys directly and work through that process on your account.
Perfect. All right, ready to move on? All right, cool. We'll go ahead and move on then. So yeah, labor allocation, we talked about labor report, the daily auto email, and then lastly, the detail report. And so we do see a lot of people using this as well. And just like Holly said, we can break this down. I'll use the previous pay period because we have some time in there. You can break down by prompts, right? If we wanted to show specific prompt lists, clock prompts, jobs, those things that we've loaded in clock prompts for an employee to select when they punch in or out, we could include those. Just running this report as is, you can see that it's basically just a small time card for each employee. So rather saying hour or line by line and just showing hours worked, this would show specifically that employee information, how many hours they've worked during that pay period. So you still get that overview. We see a lot of people printing this out, going through it, looking at it, and being able to see each day by day scenario here. Now, there is no export to CSV with this. This is really just for you to kind of get into the details, look through the report itself, and you can kind of see how those break down here. So, all right. The next item, and so that kind of wraps up. I don't know, Paul, if there's anything you want to talk about of labor allocation. I mean, you already did a little bit there, but labor reports, daily auto email, and detail reports, I believe are your kind of your best friends here for anything pertaining to labor tracking or job costing, that sort of thing.
Yeah, just to call out a few others because other people might be using things. We won't go through them, but just so you're aware, if you guys are using approvals, there's an approval report here. So if you want to see checks and balances, who's approving their time cards at the end of a pay period, lots of different summary options. Again, we talked a little bit about labor and how we're collecting those categories. We can report on notes as well. So if you're concerned or wanting to track how many people are putting in notes, again, if they're not able to edit their time cards, those are kind of a good look back as well. Time off requests, and then just kind of a work week report that kind of generalizes 1 week at a time, if that's something you like to look at versus a pay period. So there's some different things in here. I encourage you guys to kind of play around. And then all the way at the top, we have custom reports. So if this isn't really enough for you, we've kind of opened up the capabilities of kind of slicing and dicing that information to maybe better suit your needs. Again, if you've got any questions on these specifically, they're not very difficult, I think, to kind of click in and figure out. But if there's something you're looking for specifically, I encourage you to reach out.
Perfect. All right, looking at the agenda, then I got two more items that we want to talk about, and that's one, the reports in our HR tab. And then we'll wrap things up with the admin, the filing cabinet, to talk about file formats. So let's head over to the HR tab. So in a past webinar, if you guys were not able to join us, we talked about the flows, setting up flows specifically on onboarding new employees. And in doing that, if you're a company that needs to collect specific information during that process, I'm going to kind of go back to the home healthcare thing here, where you more than likely need to, if you're having employees driving around in company vehicles or maybe even in their own, may need to have a driver's license on file. Maybe you need to order shirts for them as they get hired on. So you can add that all into the HR portion of WorkforceHub, and then on top of that, we can then have reporting items here to see specifically around maybe certificates, driver's licenses, when do those expire, those sort of things. So with that in mind, I want to show you kind of what's available in the reporting section here. So these are all those flows that we talked about last time. So let's say that there's a certification report, right? We want to run this. We can see that, run it for active, we'll run the report. You can see how many people have that a driver's license in here, when the expiration date is, right? It may not be for everyone. Maybe there's only a few people that are driving or have a certain certificate. But you can see that all those flows that you put in place here, we can run a report for those. You can then stay up to date. You can be notified of these things. Hey, this person's driver's license is, expiring next year. We have Kurt's coming up, and you can have a flow to remind Kurt, remind yourself to make sure that we update that driver's license number. Same thing happens with those certificates as well. We can also export that to CSV if you need it in another platform. Some of the other items as well we talked about were, certifications. We talked about company items, right? And so as you run this report, you can kind of see if they have a credit card out. That's one that we've seen a lot of people use. If there's a company credit card in use, who has that? Of course, we don't want to put the credit card details in here, but at least you know that 2 people out of the company do have access to a company credit card. So as you can see, we can really utilize any type of flow in, user-created flow, and then turn those into reporting items as well if you need to. Last one that we talked about is performance reviews and performance reports. Are those documents in for employees? You can kind of see running this report. We can see that it provides all the information we wanted to collect from them during that performance portion, and then it kind of shows you in a larger format. So you have to go into each individual employee. You can also export that to CSV. All right, we talked about certifications. We talked about a little bit about custom flows. And then, Holly, was there other items that you wanted to talk about for the employees, or was most of that in the admin section?
No, I think it's just worth mentioning though, anything that you're collecting from the workflows, their performance reviews, their t-shirt size, all of those items from that employee are going to be listed in here. And then obviously their associated filing cabinet. Where Travis is gonna head next under that admin tab is really gonna be about some of those more private things that are more onboarding related or specific to that employee that really only admins should see. But really any of your workflow items will be found here from that employee perspective. So you've got your reporting, but I also always like to call out where you're going to access that information once you collect it, because that's definitely important. You obviously collected that for a reason.
Cool. All right. Anything else you want me to add then here? I'll jump over to admin. We good?
No, I think we're good.
Okay. All right, so that admin portion, we'll talk about a few things here. I'll first go into the file cabinet, like Holly mentioned. So here, we've talked about this in the past webinar as well, but if we want to add in documents, a good example of that is just employee handbook. Looks like we have one in here for yearly training, those sort of things. This is where we can import those documents, and then we can attach these to specific flows. So if you want people to say, look through the employee handbook or sign that employee handbook when they're first hired, you can put that into a flow, and then you ultimately can report on that as well. So if we go into the employee portion, you can see all of those details that Holly just mentioned. If we click on any of these employees here, you can see that, and I don't know if I have any items in here for them, but we have pay stubs, we got year-end documents, and then or year-end tax documents, and then we have those personal documents that we're asking for. Let me see if I can find. Yeah, here we go. I did have something in here. So yeah, so that new hire paperwork. This is where, for example, we onboard an employee, we bring them through the whole process. Whatever information we ask them or ask of them during that onboarding process, it's collected, it's kept in the system, and so you can always have access to that. So, okay, all right. The last item that I want to cover is kind of payroll reports. So we talked about how to run a report for overtime, what reports are the most valuable to you, labor allocation, payroll reports, most people will run through the payroll review, which I kind of walked through earlier. And then a lot of people use the summary report as well. And if you're one of those people that are using those and exporting a CSV and manually keying items in, know that you do not have to do that. If you're keying stuff into a platform that allows you to import, let's say a specific type of CSV, we more than likely have a file format created for you for the platform that you're using. And in order to do that, you would come here into the payroll portion and you would go to payroll export. This is where you would have the ability, and we would provide you with this file format name. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you, I'll show this in browser, but one of the most common is just it's called the sum3. And this report is used a lot, and it can be imported into a lot of different payroll platforms. So submitting that, you can kind of see here, I think I got a missing punch. It's all comma separated file, right? This type of report would be able to be imported directly into another platform. So you wouldn't have to go through that and manually key in the time that you're seeing and things like that. So this is a great tool. Like I said, if you are a person that right now that's manually keying those in, please reach out to Holly. She'll be able to help you out. And if not, we can definitely get support involved. If you have if you're using a platform and they say, hey, we need it to look like this, take a screenshot or send us over just a dummy file of that. And so we can take a look at it. In most cases, we can formulate the headers of maybe a custom CSV, or even if it's a comma separated file, we have a lot of those available for you. So we can hopefully make your life easier, save you a little bit of time as well. All right. Holly, that wraps things up. Looks like we're 4 minutes early, but hopefully we've got some questions. Unless there's anything else you want to add here.
No, I am good. This is for those that have the HR portal. So to Christina's question, the files that we talked about, or sorry, the reports that we talked about within the time portion, those are available. Are they available on Essentials? I'm not.
Sorry, what's the question?
Some of them are available on HR, but are the time all of the time reports available on Essentials, or is that advanced only?
No, yeah, there are specific reports that are not available in Essentials that we showed off today, yes.
Got it. Okay, so limited reporting on time-based items for Essentials product. The advanced product that a decent number of you guys, I believe, are on today, all of those exist. The only ones that wouldn't be available were anything that kind of introduces that employee documents or workflows, what we're kind of looking at from an HR perspective. Francis, is it possible to create groups based on employee types so we can narrow down the information we want to download?
Yeah, you would have to set that up. And so it also depends on what platform you're in as well. So if you're in, or what package, if you're in.
He's on advanced, I know that.
Advanced, okay, all right. Then yeah, you would be able to set up here and go to your employee types, and you could create your employee type. You could also go to the organization setup, and you could say location departments. Now, if you didn't want to use, let's say that you wanted to create a group within a department, let's see, on advanced, they can use groups in advanced. So, but yeah, yes, absolutely. Outside of your standard department location and position, and then of course using types, you then have another level which is groups, and you can set up specific groups just either based on this criterion, or you could just create a group and throw employees in it and create your own group. So that can be done, yeah.
Yeah, so to your point specifically, so once you create, and again, this is kind of for all the platforms, it doesn't really matter. This is really where the nuts and bolts of the information starts off first. So you need to create those segmentations in the admin tab, and then you're going to apply them to those specific employees. So if you want to label people as a full-time or a part-time, you're going to do that in their employee record. If we need to segment them down even further, that's when the groups come into play. So you can name those groups whatever you want, you can put whoever you want in there, and those groups can be reported on. Those groups are utilized usually in geofencing if you want to segment down those people. So there's a couple different ways to kind of accomplish what we're looking for, but you're always going to want to build them first in that admin tab under that organization data, apply them specifically second to those employees in their employee record, and then thirdly, you can utilize that throughout the product.
Perfect. Yeah, I'm just in the summary report too. Once you have those groups created, you can see that it shows up in that drop down. You can also select by criterion, right? You can write in the department, if a department is, say, I don't know, shop, for example, you could then utilize that as well here. Cool. What else we got?
If I can figure out how to do that, yes, I can help you out with that if you're wanting to work around groups and kind of getting your organization data in place. That's not necessarily how that was built originally, but we can definitely work through those things now. So just send me an email and we can work through that. Absolutely, you are welcome. All right, does anybody have any other questions regarding either, what we saw today on reporting, or if there's other aspects that you either had questions on or something else that we can kind of help with while you have us here in a live setting? No? All right. Travis, I have one more question here. I have an employee who went to full-time, from full-time to part-time, maybe? If they're switching the type of employment they have, whether that's full-time to part-time or part-time to full-time, you're just going to switch that in that employee record. So as long as the category you're switching to exists, again, from that admin tab, you're just going to head over to employment and then change that status of that employee, or you're going to change that employee type by just editing that little pencil. And then that's actually in that top section. Right in the top section. Oh yeah, there we go. Thank you. So all of those are the ones listed already in admin, and then you can just move them over.
Yeah, and this list too, as we mentioned, or Holly mentioned earlier, this is kind of the foundation portion that you see in the admin tab, right? All these can be changed. I mean, we put some defaults in there for you, but you see that we added an executive on our demo account here. So that gives you kind of the position status of it. But then also in this area here too, right? You can set people to active, or if there's somebody that is seasonal, you can take care of that. But yeah, that position portion, that's taken care of in that admin side. So if we come back over here, we go to company, org setup, this is where you would be able to put those positions in place, right? If you wanted to add a new one here to say maybe seasonal, right? We can go ahead and create that, creates that that code or that new position. So we go back to that employee and we say, all right, well, Justin here, he is now seasonal, right? Come to the employment tab, go here, come down to the position, and we can change that person to seasonal if you'd like.
Great. Thank you. She also is seeing that she needs to remove her PTO specifically. Jessica, I'll take a look at your account after this call at some point today, and I'll just send you an email and we can kind of connect on what you're seeing specifically, because I'm not understanding the specific question based on she's still seeing PTO. So I will take that offline with you specifically, and we will get that figured out. All right, next question. So Christina is saying, I've got a quick question about the time off calendar. Is there a way to see that with names and not the number of employees?
Good
I
question.
can.
Yeah. So if you click on the date, it should show the name down below here. So for example, the 19th, or let's just say the 30th here, you click on that square for that date, it should show you who has requests in and then the status of that, if it's approved or if it's still pending, and then the hours requested or approved for that date.
Great. And you should be able to see that when those requests are made too. So you're making good decisions on how many people are off on that particular day. So it does flow over from the managed request. If you've got, want to click into one of those overlapping ones.
Yeah, you can see this
So
right
you'll
here.
see
Where
them there. If you click into the request, you'll be able to actually see those specific people as well. So it should carry you through the whole process from managing the request and then also being able to drop down that on the calendar view as well. And that particular item is available again on most of those platforms.
Yep,
Yeah.
on all of them. Yep.
Okay. On the time off calendar, when I manually put a person's time off on the time card, it doesn't show on the calendar. That is correct. So the calendar and the PTO requests are specifically associated to that person, not necessarily a manager or an admin putting in that request. So that has to directly come from the employee to be managed in that way. Now, they do apply on the time card. They can be deducted, once you're just seeing it there. But if you're doing that request for them, it will not show up on that calendar.
That's correct. Yep. I think the biggest reason for that too is we've gone back and forth on this too, where we've kind of limited ourselves in saying that managers should put in time requests for or on the behalf of an employee. And currently, we're kind of looking at that as maybe a future option. But yeah, right now, anything that shows on the calendar, like Holly mentioned, needs to go through that time off request, and that employee at this point is the only one that can do that. We're not allowing managers or admins to submit time off requests on behalf of an employee.
Good to know. Okay. Okay. Yep. Nope. You're not doing anything wrong. That's just the way the system was intended, or at least functioning, I should say. Like Travis has said, we are looking into alternative options as well. And this is great. We get that feedback from you. That's why attending these are just so critical, in my opinion. We want to learn from you guys. What is that important? What is that? How does that affect your day to day? That just helps us build a better product and really kind of understand some of those nuances. You're definitely not the first person to bring that up. But yes, that's intended how it's functioning as of today. But great questions. All right, anybody else have anything? Hopefully I got them all, and if I didn't, I apologize, but I promise I will catch up with those after if I missed some of these chats going back and forth. All right, perfect. Well, I think we will wrap this up then. Travis, I'm going to take that back from you.
Okay.
Where did that go?
There we go. Throw it away.
Thank you. Perfect. Okay, awesome. So thank you guys for such a great interactive webinar today. I appreciate all the questions. Hopefully those are beneficial for you guys. Hopefully you learned a little bit on the reporting aspect. That's what these are for. We want to call out things that maybe you're not utilizing or maybe pain points that we can be doing better or helping you with anyways. The next one, we are going to change the time slightly. So please hang on for a quick survey afterwards. This kind of helps us kind of manage the content and the timing and all those kind of good things so you guys get the most out of this. But we will be changing this next one and maybe more earlier in the day. So hopefully that's beneficial for you guys. If not, there's always a recording if this is outside your normal window. But the next time we're going to be really diving into your admin functions. We want to take a look at kind of the back-end setup. So we already initially set everything up for you guys. How do you maintain this? What access do you have as an admin? What kind of buttons and goodies do you have to control after everything is set up? Now, there's still going to be things I'm going to clarify that, you know, we need to assist with, and obviously our support team is here to help you with any of those major configuration changes. It's not a one-time setup and then forget it, but you do have access from an admin perspective on a lot of different things. So we'll be kind of covering some of those items for you. Hopefully that'll be beneficial for you guys to maintain this account. And then obviously we're around with any additional questions. So thank you again so much for your time today. And we hope you have a great rest of your spring, and we will catch you next month just after Labor Day. So take care, everyone, and have a great rest of your week.